Street photography is amazing. When I discovered it in my 20s, I was just like blown away. And I was like, this is it. This is the thing. Like, I have to do this. And like, I have to like put all my efforts into this, which on some level, I'm still all in on street photography. Eventually I had to, pump the brakes a little bit because initially I thought like, this is an amazing art form. I discovered all of the great street photographers and their works and, collected their books and everything and like, studied light and composition. And so I was like, these street photographers, they're making a living from it, right? Well, that's not necessarily the case, or at least the answer is, more complicated than that. So some street photographers do make a living from street photography, but oftentimes it's something related to street photography that is bringing in the money. So one of the major ways that street photographers, like famous street photographers, from like Magnum, for example, a lot of them make a living off of doing street photography workshops. Not to take anything away from like photography education or street photography workshops, but I just bring this up because they're making a living off of, something related to street photography, not necessarily street photography itself. Art in general, I think, there's the struggling artist trope for a reason, because it's difficult to break through and make a living through art, through, painting or music or whatever. Obviously, like, there are some artists out there who get to the point where they are making a living through it. And I mean, this is kind of wishful thinking, but on some level, I do wish there was like more opportunity, more financial opportunity for street photographers to make a living by, selling their art directly. So historically, there have been a lot of street photographers who, do it on the side, and it's probably like their passion that they do, and their day job is, some other type of photography. So a lot of times it's, or has been photojournalism or like documentary photography work, maybe like event work for newspapers, that sort of thing. And that's all great and good. But it's not street photography. And if you love street photography and that's what you want to do, and it kind of like consumes you, and you just want to be out there on the streets taking photos and creating a body of work, it's just, it's kind of a tough pill to swallow. And then obviously there's also commercial work, which plenty of street photographers have done. Like Elliot Erwitt was a commercial photographer who I'm pretty sure he made a really good living doing that. But just once again, it's not street photography. And I guess it's great if you love all sorts of photography. And I actually personally, I do, I would say that, but I wouldn't say that I would want to be doing other types of photography for a living, like other than street photography. Like, I'm just not that passionate about, doing portraits or whatever. Today, you can make a living doing street photography, doing things like running workshops, selling prints, and selling other products related to your street photography work or of your street photography work. It definitely is possible. I don't want to say that it's not, because there are some really amazing and talented photographers who are pulling it off. But my point is basically that it's really, really complicated, or it's just really hard. It's very hard to get to that level. The other thing about it is that there's no defined path for it. I think that's like one of the biggest issues here, is that street photography, it's not like a 9 to 5 job where you punch in and punch out, which would be great. I'd love to be like, punch my street photography card and then do it for 8 hours and then, punch out. And I'd love to have a union. I'd love for a union to be like, representing me in like, my street photography employer. They'd be constantly like, negotiating for me to get me better street photography wages and health benefits and all that. Some more time off, to have vacation, to go like vacation and do some more street photography. That'd be great. But the reality is just that there's no defined path for this. Like a lot of photographers have figured it out, or have like kind of figured it out through happenstance. And I don't think it's just photographers. Like it's also like, journalists with like their Substacks, and other artists I'm sure do a similar thing. But it's just, it's like you have to figure it all out yourself. And I think for a lot of people, like number one, that's just really difficult. And then also like there's a lot of luck involved. I think that there's a lot of luck involved in this, and like maybe in like the momentum that you build, like whether you like earn some awards, that type of thing. Some of those things are out of your hands, although I would say like you have to put the work in for all of that. Like ultimately, I do think that if you put the work in, like, you build your own good luck. So in today's world, like one of the issues with street photographers and photography in general is that there just like are no jobs like there used to be. Like it used to be that you could get a job at a newspaper and like be a photojournalist. And I mean, I graduated college back in 2013, and like I started doing photography. I didn't major in it, but I started doing it during college, and I kind of like looked into it at the time. But basically it was just like, even like back then it was already like all doom and gloom about the journalism industry, and just, all of the jobs were going to like to contract and freelance, and just eliminating jobs and eliminating benefits. Like I'm just basically like complaining about this. It just sucks that, this is the current situation, that like journalism and photojournalism, like, at an institutional level that could have, historically it provided jobs for people who would typically be interested in doing street photography. Like those jobs just don't exist anymore. And that just sucks. That's all I have to say about it. Ultimately, I think you can, to some extent make a living off of street photography. It's just really, really difficult. But like, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna give it the old college try. We'll see, where it goes. But, and I've been trying, but like, I think the first step obviously is like having it like supplement my income to some extent. Like, selling prints or whatever. And whether that be selling them online or at in-person events, that type of thing. I think that would be a good start. I also need to be realistic and be okay with having street photography be like my passion and not be like my source of income, I guess. There's also the issue of like, what if I did, make this my income and my career? Like, would I still enjoy it? When I was in college, or I went to a music college for 2 years after I got out of high school, and I went to play drums. It was for drum performance. Ultimately, I ended up not really liking playing the drums anymore, for at least for a time period. It kind of burnt me out on it, and it made it like a job and just less enjoyable than when it was just like a hobby and what I did for fun. I don't know if that would happen with me and if I made a career out of doing street photography in some way. I ultimately don't think it would be an issue, but it's just something that I would take into consideration. So what are your thoughts on street photography as a profession? Do you think it's viable? Would you try to do it? Are you trying to do it? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.